Hello, and welcome to an intro to Anthro with two humans. I'm human number one, John McCray.
And I'm human number two, John Lehr.
And this is the podcast where we reassess what it means to be human. And the title of this episode is Totally Potted, a Crash Course in Prehistoric Pottery.
Wow. All right.
This
is I'm going to say right now, I'm going to predict, this is one we're going to submit to the Webbies.
Is it? Okay.
or the Potties.
Let's not even... Just write straight to them. Don't even edit it. Just like straight to them.
I'm streaming it at them right now.
Yeah. First, we're like Sinatra. First take, best take. You know what I mean?
Goddamn right.
John, before we go any further, we do have to talk about the fires in LA.
Yes.
And I just want to send out my love and sympathy and concern for all of our friends and family members and listeners and everybody affected by the fires.
It's really insane. I'm looking at the plume right now.
Are you really? Wow.
One of the fires, there's a few fires.
Yeah.
There's the big one in the Palisades, but right. The one over in Pasadena is also massive. But they're starting to get a handle on that one, it seems. They've got about 30% contained.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's been zero for so long.
And you mentioned that you had to evacuate too.
Yeah. I live right on Griffith Park, and there was another fire called the Sunset Fire. I'm not sure who names these. I'd like to be involved. But so there's different phases, and we were in a yellow warning, but it was just 2 blocks away. So we were like, let's bug out. You can wait until the mandatory, the red one, but we didn't. We just,
they move so fast. I mean, even because we have them out here in New Mexico too, and they move so fast, but anyway, I'm just, we're thinking of you guys. Thank you to all the fire crews in LA, and also the fire crews that have been brought in from other states,
from
and
all
Mexico.
Over. Thank you. It's going to be a different city. I mean, it's going to be a different city. So I have at least 4 or 5 friends who have completely lost their homes, just nothing but ash. I mean, it's just remarkable. But also what's remarkable is the low death rate. It's very low. I mean, any death is obviously big, but it's so low compared to what I expected. I don't know. So I think that speaks to a lot of the first responders and the people, and the city planners and people. LA did a good job. They did a good job, I think, in protecting us. So
the bad thing is, I mean, compared to an earthquake, because an earthquake, everything collapses around you, and there's fire, but usually an earthquake, all of your personal effects are still in there.
Right. You just have to dig them out.
Yeah. Your pictures, your awards, your scripts, everything that you did in your life is still in there.
I don't have a whole lot of awards, I'm going to be honest with you. That's not the first thing I'd be searching for.
I wonder if those Oscars would survive them.
I don't know. They look pretty. The only award that I've seen people who the Emmys are pretty heavy.
Really?
Have you ever held one of the Emmys?
No.
Big. They're big and heavy.
Yeah.
But the Oscars, I don't know. I think they'd melt right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
you're right. You can go and dig in your stuff. And that was interesting about us when we bugged out. It's like, what do you bring? What do you take? And we have a lot of art in the house that's worth some money, but it's worth too much money for us to insure.
Right.
Because it costs a lot to insure. And so we did 2 runs. We loaded the car up with the most expensive art and took it down to Jennifer's shop. Oxford House Projects on Hollywood Boulevard, just a little, and put it in there just because it was, less, it was further away from Griffith Park. But then I just took my, I took my computer, my drives, some, birth certificates, things like that. But yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I really feel for everybody. I know it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Because this has taken away all of your memories, or like the artifacts that you had from your life. So anyway, and also I would say that, that area where Sunset Boulevard runs into the Pacific Coast Highway, when I lived in LA, I was up there all the time. That was one of my favorite places in the world. It was so beautiful and so lovely. And that drive down Sunset past the Will Rogers State Park.
Yeah.
And then you come out on the beach. I just love it. And so it's just breaking my heart.
It's all gone. It's all gone.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
So, anyway, we love you guys, and we're thinking of you.
Yes. Yes.
All right, John. So today we're going to be talking about old pots and pottery sherds, which are fragments and pieces of old pots.
I sure do know what those are, because if you spend any time with Professor McCray in his home biome, he will stop and pick up. Oh, here's a shard.
Yeah.
They're like all over the place.
Yeah, here they're all over the place. But it's like the bread and butter of archaeology, whatever archaeology you're doing. And I would say that billions and billions of square feet of storage space in museum collections are taken up by old pots and pottery sherds.
Yeah, you got that right.
Archaeologists, they excavate them, they catalog and label them, and then they send them off to a museum to be put into the collections room.
Ugh. And then we all have to go look at it when we're kids.
I know.
Pot after pot after pot.
I know. They just say, and you're seeing the ones that they're exhibiting. I mean,
those are the good ones.
Back in the storage space, there's just shelves and just boxes full of pottery sherds.
My mom was a big museum mom. She took me to lots of museums growing up, and oh my God.
Yeah.
If we saw one more pot, I was going to kill myself.
Well, just think that those were the ones that some curator thought you should see. But there's a bunch of them still in the back. Like I say, it was like, if you imagine that last scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
But those are all pottery sherds.
Why do you guys hang on to them? I guess you just got to. You can't throw them away.
Yeah, you have to. And that's what I'm saying. Like, once they're excavated, then you have to label them. You have to,
with those white numbers that are all over.
Oh, and then they just
11247.
Right. And they just sit there and wait in the collections room for some master's student who's looking for a project to come in there and check them out and do some research.
1,000 years from now, some other archaeologist is going to dig them up and wonder why we kept those, what that says about our culture.
Right.
Jesus.
And then they'll have to figure out what to do with them. Then they'll have to stick them in.
And it's just forever.
I always imagine pottery sherds in a box in a collections room being like puppies or dogs at a animal shelter. when somebody comes in, an archaeologist comes in, they're all excited, like, pick me, pick me.
I've got a story to tell.
And then they just keep walking by and turn out the light.
Oh my God.
But how do I know all this? It's because I've seen them. I've seen them, whether it be like at universities or at museums when I was doing my museum studies. One time I even volunteered to help a museum in Santa Fe when they were moving their collection of pottery.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, that just sounds horrible.
Well, they had outgrown their old collections room full of pottery sherds, and they were moving them to a new collections room, a larger collections room that was quickly filling up.
When you get one pottery shard, it's not much, but when you get a whole case of them, I bet it's pretty heavy.
Oh yeah, it's heavy, and it's just stacked full of, and you put them in like little plastic bags, and then you put the bag, and then you label the bag, and then you label the sherds. And there were boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of pottery sherds and pottery that had been excavated back in the 20s and 30s here in New Mexico. Ugh. They had been labeled. They had been shipped off to the repository. And there they just sat for decades, just decades, and never looked at again. And probably those, like you mentioned, in 1,000 years, those pottery sherds will still be here and we won't.
Right. And then we'll be studied about how we studied the pottery.
Yeah. What were these freaks thinking about?
Why'd they look at that? Why didn't they throw those away?
They didn't make it. They were somebody made it. But anyway, John, we're getting back to our bread and butter too, which is the hands-on. It's been a while since we've done like a hands-on episode.
It's like Christmas over here at the LA office when a box from Professor McCray comes in. I know something's up. Something big is afoot.
Yeah. And this one, I didn't even tell you it was on its way. I just happened to be going to the post office, so I packed it up and dropped it in the mail.
I know. I called you immediately because I didn't know if I should put it in the fridge or what.
I think the last hands-on we did was when we made stone tools.
Oh, really? I thought we had a food one in between there. No?
Well, we had some food ones done. But I see what you're saying. Where we're making.
Yeah, stone tools. I didn't do very well with the stone tools. I couldn't quite get the hang of it.
Yeah. I think it's a skill. You got to keep doing it.
You got to be a prehistoric dude with nothing nothing to do all day. But try to make an arrowhead,
Just keep working on it. I think I told you one time I started out with a block of, or like a piece of obsidian that was about the size of a basketball. And when I got done, I had a little arrowhead that was about the size of a dime.
Oh, God.
But I'm still like picking, I'll come into the office here because you and I we were working with obsidian, which is volcanic glass.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, I'll still like snag a piece of that into my socks.
Oh, be careful.
Yeah.
You get a piece of obsidian under your skin, it's going to be there forever. When they find your bones, they'll wonder why you had an obsidian shard in your foot. And then they'll catalog that and put that in a plastic bag.
And they're all set in perpetuity with nobody looking at me. But anyway, so today we're getting back to our roots. We're getting back to experimental archaeology the way it's supposed to be done. And that's two goofballs long distance on a podcast.
That's right. That's right. The core of our business. This is how we get our success. This is what we're known for.
This is what makes us legit on the academic circles.
That's right.
So we're going to discuss prehistoric pottery and why it's important to humans, and then you and I are going to try our hand at making some pottery and some figurines.
We sure are. Oh, figurines. Okay,
figurines,
I didn't realize that. Okay.
So what I sent you a few weeks ago was some modeling clay.
Mm-hmm. I have it right here. Should I show it to the team?
Yeah, go ahead. Show. This is for people who are watching on the YouTubes. There it is. It's a block of clay.
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid you would take that to Chicago with you, and then like security would think that was like plastic explosive or something.
You're right. Oh my God, it could have.
Because I tried to stop. I was like, oh no, I hope he's not doing it.
Fortunately, I forgot it. I forgot to pack it. I packed the microphone, but I forgot the pottery stuff.
It worked out better. I'm sure that they would have pulled you out of the line.
Yeah, but like, what are you doing?
Yeah, what is this? Mm-hmm. But this is an oil-based clay that sculptors use.
Mm-hmm.
And this, so it's not a pottery clay, but I got it because I thought it would stay soft longer than like a soil-based or an actual clay-based.
Okay.
Clay.
So from the get-go, we're not authentic, is what you're saying. Right, out of the gate.
So just imagine, you'll have to use your imagination with that.
So step one of what we're about to show everybody has an asterisk on it already.
Yeah. We're still a podcast first. Let's just remember that.
Yes.
And then just to get started, before we begin, I have to say there's something about prehistoric pottery. Not everybody loves it.
No.
And in the book, Pottery and Archaeology, Clive Orton, Paul Tyers, and Alan Vince say, pottery tends to arouse strong emotions in archaeologists.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
They either love it or hate it. For some, it has an indefinable fascination and is potentially full of information, which has to be teased out of it by careful and painstaking study. And then they continue, at the other end of the scale, it is seen as the most common of archaeological materials whose main functions are to slow down the real business of diggings, fill up stores, and behave as an archaeological black hole for post-excavation resources.
You know what? I think I fall into that group, because I just feel like it clogs up you guys. It's clogging up the system. But I get it. You can't throw it away because what if it's something, I don't know. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Well, I think it brings up an important point. And I found an article back in April of 2024, and it was from a local TV station down in Pensacola, Florida. And
Look at you digging stuff up. That's incredible.
I just, I'm always surfing around, like keeping my ears to the ground looking for archaeology stories.
All I have is a Google alert. That's it.
So anyway, back in April of 2024, I read an article from this Florida TV station.
Okay.
And the title of the article on their website was "Man Ordered to Rebury History After Unearthing Spanish Artifacts at Fort Pickens."
Whoa.
And Fort Pickens is a historical site there near Pensacola. There's I think a Fort Pickens National Seashore. It's a federal park.
Okay.
And apparently the guy was camping at Fort Pickens, and he sat down on a bench, and he happened to notice some pottery sherds on the ground.
Okay.
And understandably, he got excited about the sherds, and he grabbed a few of them, and he ran off to find a park ranger to tell them about it.
Oh. The park ranger's like, oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me label that and put it in a baggie.
Well, that's what happened. The park ranger, he identified them as, quote, generic Spanish olive jars, pieces of generic Spanish olive jar used by people dating to the 1500s. And the ranger said that it was the most common type of pottery they find in that area.
Okay.
And which means, that's a euphemism for our storage area is already full of this type.
Yeah. We got enough of the olive things.
Yeah. So he identified it, and then he told the guy, go back, because the guy, he said, go back and rebury it where you found it. You know what I mean?
Why?
Well, the thing is, if you can't, one of the best ways to preserve something is to leave it in the ground. Believe it or not. Believe it or not.
Yeah, I do believe that. If it's kept it for that long, just put it back in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And not to mention, when you pick something up and you take it, I mean, I understand you can get very excited when you find something laying on the ground. I still get very excited. But the thing is, when you take it out of the context,
right,
that kind of like, there's no, it's hard to have any like research.
Well, everybody knows that. Anybody who's watched CSI knows you don't disturb the scene.
Right.
I mean, picking up pottery shards by a bench is just like, why don't you just grab the human head at the murder scene? You know what I mean?
Maybe he would. Maybe
why just go get the guy? You don't need to bring it to him.
Look, I found a finger. I found a finger over here. Everybody, come on.
Where did you find it? I forgot, but here it is.
But anyway, the guy was upset by this, okay?
What?
Obviously.
Only
and so
Pensacola.
What he did when he got home, he called the local news station.
Oh my God.
And told them,
this is like prehistoric man making shards. This guy making pottery. This guy's got too much time on his hands. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. Screw that guy. I'm going to call the local TV station.
And so they did what's usually like an outrage piece. Like, local news stations, you'll always get this. It always usually it involves a veteran, like veteran that refused service at a restaurant when he had a reservation.
Right.
And then when you dig into it, you realize, well, his reservation was for 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's always more to it, you know. But anyway, the guy said in the article, he said, I thought they would put it in a museum or something.
Oh, boy.
So he was expecting that, like this was a significant find, and that they would immediately.
Thinks he's indie, you know. I took the sand and put it there and then took the stone so that the big rolling ball wouldn't get me. Yeah. Like in his mind, he's like indie.
Yeah, jumping, like being chased and jumping.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, the news station went out and they interviewed the archaeologist at the park, who said that the artifact discovered by the camper could be redundant with what they have in their collection. I'm going to guarantee you it is redundant with what they have in the collection. Yeah. And the archaeologist then said, quote, simply to reduce the amount of effort that it takes to conserve all these items, it's better to conserve the sites as they are and not introduce any ground disturbance and bring new things into collections if we don't need to. So
well said.
Yeah.
but I'm sure the first of all, how is so little happening in Pensacola that they're going to go out and do a story on some shards?
I always thought that Pensacola was a big city myself.
Me too.
I mean, in my mind, I imagine it being a large city, but
that's amazing. Yeah. That's beyond. I mean, that's like, you know, Kansas City, you'll see like a story on like, I remember seeing a story on like motel rooms where they would test glasses, you know, and the glasses you use, and found out that they were just rinsed out and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
it's always, I always call it the water skiing squirrel. Like at some point, you could tell like what sort of market you're in as to whether or not the water skiing squirrel finishes up the news.
Well, a water skiing squirrel, that is something to behold. I mean, how did they get it to hold on to the handle, and how did they train that squirrel to do that? That's amazing.
All right.
You know
that's a subject for another episode.
They just tie the skis to the poor thing's feet and drag it in the water till it gets up, get a few frames of it, and then that's it.
Immediately after birth. Did you read? I think it was that. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was that new Willy Wonka that they did not long ago, the one with Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
And they had trained squirrels from birth just for a scene in there to show them like unwrapping candies or something. I never saw the movie or something, but it was like all those squirrels trained from birth for a scene in a movie.
I have my own version of that. I've basically been trained from birth to do something stupid for some stupid movie or something. You know what I mean? Like all of this is so pointless.
It's all led up to this. So anyway, after they interviewed the archaeologist, and you know, again, it's judging from the comments that were, you know, that came underneath the article on the news station's website, and then also the title of it, man ordered to to rebury it. So it's like this thing where everybody thinks, big government doesn't care about our heritage. So the guy said eventually at the end of it, he said, quote, I think the artifacts in Florida should be shared. I don't think there should be a taboo on them. And I'm just saying, look, I get it. Like, I get it, but I can guarantee you that there's, you know, storerooms and storerooms and storerooms of this same type of pottery. And it's, sometimes you just got to leave it where it is. Just to like pick it up, you know, think about the people that made it and then set it back down. And, you know, it's here in New Mexico, I think I even took you out to Pecos National Monument, which was an old Pueblo site that was
amazing,
inhabited from like 1,000 people lived in the area before. 1,000.
I mean, it's not that amazing unless you have Professor McCray with you to tell you what you're looking at. Then it's amazing.
Yeah, but that site has been excavated many times back in the 30s, and I've looked at pottery from that site, pottery sherds from that site. But there's still pottery coming out of the ground there,
Jesus.
like what we saw. That it's there was just so much pottery. There was
what
just
didn't they put in a pot? You know what I mean? Yeah, I found a rock. Make a pot, put it in there.
Oh no, it was like those were their boxes at the time. You know what I mean? That's what you used.
They needed to trim down on their stuff.
But the thing is, I get the excitement about finding something. Like, I understand the guy. When you find something, you think whether you're finding an Australopithecus skull in Africa, or if you're finding a pottery sherd in Florida, everybody gets very excited and very protective of their own finds.
Yeah.
And you think that that's the most significant find ever found.
Maybe. I wouldn't. I'd look at it. I wouldn't even go talk to the park ranger. I'd just put it right back.
Yeah, which is...
I wouldn't even be picking through the ground below a park bench anyway. Everybody thinks campsites are so pristine in nature. You know how many people have peed on every square inch of that place? Filthy.
Yeah. In the middle of the night, what do people do? It's like, I'm not hiking all the way over there to the pit toilet.
Gallons of John Lehr urine has gone into campsites across this land.
I one time, we had gone out to go camping, and the last site that they had, there had been a flood, so half it was up in northern New Mexico, so half of the campsites were closed because of a flood. Mm-hmm. But we were still going to camp, and the only one left was right near the toilets.
Oh, the worst. That's the worst.
After a flood, we were like, screw it. We're going home. We're not going camping after.
Yeah, you can't.
But the thing is, John, I want to say I understand the guy. I empathize with the guy. Because whenever I see a pottery sherd on the ground, I get excited because I'm what's known in archaeological circles as a sherd nerd.
Oh my God. Now, why do you say sherd and not shard?
They're both the same.
Okay.
I guess shard you could say is SHARD, like a shard of glass. But in archaeological, in those environments or in that context, it's usually pronounced sherd. Archaeologists always say sherd.
Well, maybe they did it just to rhyme with nerd. Maybe they said, you're a shard nerd. And somebody said,
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to say, as a sherd nerd, we're going to continue on with this. We're going to talk about pottery, granular. We're going to get down to granular detail about pottery.
I'm a shard bard. I talk in Shakespeare about old pottery.
Well, I was thinking this guy. I mean, what he had found, or like a lot of times with pottery sherds. Remember, people were using this for everything, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Everything. Ugh. And of course it would always break. Yeah. And so they'd have to make more. And I always consider it like when you're out in a dump and you find like an old beer can that had to be opened by a church key or by a can open. And you get really excited about it, like, look at this old Falstaff can or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then you find another one and you're like, oh wow, and then you find another one and another one. And pretty soon you're just like, oh my God, these people drank a lot of beer. What's going on? So it's not that, the park archaeologists didn't find it interesting or didn't care about it.
Right.
But it's just like you have to make choices because they still have a budget and they have to manage all of that storage space and what needs to go in there. And once you have something that kind of has that you've used to study a certain area, then you say, well, let's leave the rest of it there. And then somebody in the future will come in and excavate it and find it in the context. So, all right. So as a sherd nerd, let's continue on, John.
Okay. As your shard bard, I say I'm preparing a rhyming couplet.
Okay. Huzzah. Huzzah.
Huzzah. God,
huzzah, my lord. In the beginning of the book, Pottery Analysis, a source book, Prudence Rice quotes the Austrian ceramicist Otto Natzler.
Otto
Natzler. Yeah. Okay. I think he ended up in L.A. or something.
Really?
Yeah. Who said, quote,
God, you are a sherd nerd. I know. You know where Otto Natzler ended up.
I know. He says, when you hold a pot in your hands, when you go over its walls with your fingers, you feel the hands of the potter, his finger marks, his touch. You may not know who he was or what he looked like, but handling the pot, be it hundreds or thousands of years old, you could still feel the imprint of his hands. It is this fact about a pot that makes it so endearing, so very personal.
Otto's a bit of a he's a bit of a shard bard.
Shard bard too.
He's a sherd nerd and a shard bard.
And I think that's why I love pottery. I love looking at pottery sherds. Because it was something, it's not like something that was in a church. It's not something that was in a temple. It's something that somebody used every day.
Yeah.
And
I'm like that in a Las Vegas hotel room. I walk in and I wonder how many sex acts have been done there, how many people have been killed, how much cocaine has been snorted off this table.
So you understand what me and Otto are feeling with me.
Yeah, I'm with you guys.
Yeah, it's a link to the people who came before us. I think when I hold a piece of pottery and you could see a finger mark in there, you could see how they made it.
Just when I hold a CSI light in the room, see the white splotches of body fluids that have been strewn all about the hotel room.
So you can understand
the love, the history of love that's happened.
We're all connected.
We're all connected.
But I also like that it's been broken. You know what I mean? Like, like you'll find pots that are intact, but I also like the idea that it was broken. Like people were using it, and I can feel connected to like what they felt when they dropped that thing and broke. You know, it's like
there's a Greek restaurant in Chicago where you can throw plates.
Oh, really?
And break plates. I've always wanted to go there. Never been there. I'd love to.
Boy, what is their budget? What is their budget?
I don't know. I don't know how it works, but you can break your plate. There's some Greek tradition of
what are they, a hoopah or whatever?
Yeah, I guess. Like yeah. Once you do enough ouzo, you do whatever you want. I can imagine breaking those pots must have been fun too.
Yeah. when they dropped it, I'm sure even 1,000 years ago, somebody, because I opened up our fridge, and it, sometimes you open up a fridge or a freezer and something comes flying out of there. It's like
some foot or a human head or something. Yeah. Yes.
Like a jar of something, like something's in there that just throws it out at you. Like, leave me alone, close the door. But anyway, I opened it and like a jar of jelly just came flying out. And it's just when it broke, it was like, shit. Yep. And I'm sure 1,000 years ago, the equivalent was. Yeah.
Well, Mary's to blame. Mary must have been the one. Well, I mean, you didn't do the jelly. She put the jelly in there wrong. She balanced it on something.
Well, maybe she doesn't. I'm the jelly eater.
So you booby trapped yourself somehow.
I don't know. I think there's a spirit in there that, like a Tommy knocker or whatever they call him, some sort of imp that lives in there when the door is closed and when you open it, he throws food at it.
Well, somebody's going to find that broken jelly thing somewhere hundreds of years from now and wonder how it got broken.
And they'll be connected with me.
They will. Yeah.
All right. So what is pottery? Well, Prudence Rice says that the term ceramic derives from the Greek word keramos, Keramos, variously translated as burn stuff or earthenware. It describes a fired product rather than a clay raw product.
Okay.
All right. Mm-hmm. And she says, and this is what's important for us, that pottery was the first synthetic material humans created. Artificial stone.
Right. And then somebody figured out. I always think about who was the first person. Right. Who took a clay pot and like it dropped on the fire or something.
Yeah.
Hey, it's harder.
And imagine that, because you would have to think like all the other stuff that we had used before, like bone or stone or wood. We already had the material. We just had to think of like what we wanted to make out of that material.
Right.
But this is like, you had to like, even cognitively, even beyond that, you had to think of like, I'm going to make a material.
Right.
So
cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we're doing that with food, right? When we're heating food or softening beans or whatever. But that's interesting.
But I mean, to make a material, to make a tool out of it that you need was a huge cognitive leap at the time, I think.
Yep.
And she also notes, and I thought this was kind of interesting, is that it combines 4 basic elements identified by the Greeks. This is pottery: earth, water, fire, and air.
Oh,
like you need all of those.
Cool.
Yeah, you need all of those. And then speaking about the prehistoric art in the book Art History, Marilyn Stockstead says that ceramics required a different kind of conceptual leap, like we were just saying.
Right.
And she said that you had to produce ceramic works, artists had to combine certain substances with clay. Usually they combine like bone ash or some sand.
Probably poo. You know, somebody threw some poo in there. Let's try it.
Yeah, just it's like, I'm not eating it. Put your initials on that. I'm not eating out of that. And then, and that's what they call temper. Temper is something. It's an element that you put into the clay to give it more strength, for example.
Okay.
So, and sometimes they'll even, like I say, you'll grind up other pots, for example, old pots or broken pots. You'll grind up that and put it into the clay to make the clay stronger after you fire it.
Even they wanted to get rid of their shards.
I know.
They were like, what do we do with all of this?
That's probably why they moved.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ.
Can't walk around barefoot. It hurts like hell.
So Rice says that it's impossible to say when humans first began making objects out of clay. Although early stone tools from Africa are more than 1 million years old, she says the oldest objects of clay that archaeologists have found date only in the tens of thousands of years. So it's
except for those shards found by that campsite. Those are 30,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as you're sitting there on a park bench. So Rice says humans may have experimented with soft plastic earthy materials before this, maybe hundreds of thousands of years ago. And she mentions possibly like taking clay and smearing it on your body, for example.
Yeah, everybody's done that.
Do you have you ever done the clay bath? Did you ever go out?
I've never done the clay bath. My brother did it.
Yeah,
where he got in and fell asleep or something and passed out. And they had to get him out of it.
Go get the jackhammer.
Yeah, he was like stuck in there or something. But no, I've done masks. I have a daughter, so I've done a lot of masks.
Yeah. Somebody, before we got married, as a engagement present, somebody gave Mary and I a pass or like a gift certificate to someplace out like east of LA. We went out there and did the mud bath. It has a whole thing, the spa.
Right.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Did it feel good?
It did feel good.
But don't you think other people have peed and pooped in that mud that you're in? I can't get past it.
Other people. I tried to.
Do you pee in the shower? Be honest.
No,
I don't either. But a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Does Mary? Have you asked her?
I don't know. Maybe I'm going to have to ask her now.
No, my advice is don't ask. You don't want to know.
Yeah,
you don't want to know.
That's kind of how I was in that mud. I'm like, I'm enjoying it. Don't think too much about it. Don't think too much about it.
It's just pee. It's okay.
But Rice says the essential feature in the history of using clay is the application of heat to transform the soft clay into something hard and durable.
That's right. Energy.
Right. And she says, in many Paleolithic caves have designs traced into wet clay on the walls or floors. But fire clay figurines in Europe go back to about 30,000 BCE, which is before the Common Era. And Carla Sinopoli, in Approaches to Archaeological Ceramics, says that some of the earliest ceramics we have are clay figurines from about 26,000 years ago.
Wow.
In the area of what is now Czechoslovakia.
Really?
Yeah. And but the earliest pottery itself as a container, Rice says that pottery appeared about 10,000 BCE in Japan, about 8,500 to 8,000 BCE in what is now Turkey, and then about 3,000 to 2,500 BC in different places in the Western Hemisphere.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Busy little people.
And again, she says that, it wasn't, it seems like people just all around the world figured this out for themselves.
Well, it's not brain surgery. You're sitting by the lake. There's mud. You pick it up and you start fuddling around with it, and soon you've got a figurine. I'm going to give Prehistoric Man a lot of credit for a lot of things, but come on.
Yeah. We didn't need ancient aliens to come down and tell us how to make a pinch pot.
Exactly. Well said.
So how did people discover how to make pottery? There's several hypotheses. Rice notes one that says that some people think that maybe it came out of soil crusts.
What?
Like where you see like a puddle, and then as the puddle dries, maybe it gets a little crusty around the edge of the puddle. And then people were like, hey, look at
what
that.
What about just somebody just rolling it up in a ball and leaving it in the cave? Hey, it's hard.
Yeah, well, I think that probably comes to it of like some people think that maybe they were lining other like baskets and stuff like that, lining it with clay, and then as it dried, they were like, "Hey, look at this! Check this out!" And then Steve Madison in The Complete Potters says that he thinks the real reason is probably that the ground was discovered to harden under the cooking pit. So maybe in the cave.
I mean, okay. I guess somebody has to, have a theory. I guess you got to start with a theory, but really? I mean, it's just mud.
But Carla Sinopoli, again, in Approaches to Archaeological Ceramics, she says that the earliest actual pottery in the shape of a vessel or used as a vessel comes from Japan.
Wow.
From about 5,000 BC to 10,000 BC.
Wow. The Japanese.
Yeah. And it's controversial because, different types of, when they try to test it, like radiocarbon dating shows it's one age, and, different other thermoluminescence shows it's another age. So
you got to go with the carbon, don't you?
Well, thermoluminescence is probably the most most accurate.
Oh my God. I always thought carbon had to be.
Yeah. No, there's other ways that you can, because that's coming to, there's ways that you measure like the amount of sunlight or light before it was buried. And you can still go in and test it and then see how long ago
it was. That's cool.
Yeah. So there's different ways, but we're talking about that. As far as we know, the oldest that everyone agrees upon is Jomon, Jomon pottery from Japan, which looks like from 5,000 to 10,000 BC. And then in The Guardian, I found in The Guardian an article in 2012 that some people in China were saying that they had pottery that was dating back to 18,000 BC.
But the Chinese always got to beat everybody else out of it.
Yeah.
But the Chinese started everything first, didn't they? Basically, everything.
So it's still up in the air, but just know that for what we know, that everybody accepts Jomon pottery from Japan's probably the oldest.
Got it.
Oldest pottery that we know. Okay. And Marilyn Stockstead says, one of the unresolved puzzles of prehistory is why people in Europe did not produce pottery vessels much earlier. So, because it wasn't until about 7,000 BC that we start seeing people.
That is interesting. I wonder why.
Yeah.
It's colder. There's not as much mud, maybe. I don't know.
That's a good theory. we could put that down. I mean, we could try to get a grant for that. But some, most archaeologists or, anthropologists argue that, and this is Stockstead saying this, is that clay is a medium of last resort for vessels. Compared to hollow gourds, wooden bowls, or woven baskets, clay vessels are heavy and quite fragile. And firing them requires a very high level of expertise.
We were too busy, is what they're saying. We were too busy killing each other.
Yeah. Well, I think what it is, if you're a hunter-gatherer or nomadic people, you don't want to be lugging all these.
No, God, a pot? Can you imagine all those pots? Jesus Christ. Just look. No, honey, we're not taking that.
Yeah.
What's in that? I don't know, but we're bringing it.
Yeah, it's it'd be like if you were going camping, like taking all of your ceramic dishes with you to go camping. It's like, no, you take the plastic dishes.
Yeah,
you know
honey,
what I mean?
No, what's in this one? It's clay to make more pots. What? Oh my God.
So what is it about clay pottery that makes it so appealing to prehistoric and historic humans? Rice says that, first of all, it's abundant, cheap, and adaptable. So you didn't...
Just like me. Just like my comedy.
Abundant, cheap, and adaptable.
Yep.
I hope somebody should. I hope that's how they. You get a review with that. He's just like clay. He's abundant, cheap, and adaptable. And so Rice also says clay is plastic. It can be shaped and formed and will retain that form when dried.
Oh, okay. I see. For a minute there, I thought you were saying clay was plastic.
Oh,
and I'm like, what?
Like malleable.
Right. Gotcha. You're going to the second definition, the number 2 on plastic, right?
Right.
Gotcha.
And clay hardens when heat is applied. Mm-hmm. And adding substances, like we said, which is called temper, to clay improves its properties.
Yeah.
And Sinopoli says that ceramics are composed of 3 basic materials: clay, non-plastic inclusions, which is the temper.
Second definition of plastic.
yeah. Mm-hmm. And water.
Okay. And a little bit of urine, just a drop. Just a drop.
Yeah.
Makes it harden. I don't know why, but it makes it harden extra.
You know what? I'm glad we're doing this long distance, because I'd hate to be in the lab with you. What's he doing up on the?
He's doing up on the desk? Theory.
So, in other words, what happened? It's So we mentioned that, nomadic people, you didn't want to have...
Yeah.
You didn't want to be carrying all that around.
No, of course not. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened is when, and we've talked about agriculture before, about 10,000 years ago, 10,000 BC, when people started to adopt agriculture, they started to have a more sedentary lifestyle. So when you're not moving around so much, and with agriculture, and you have all your produce from agriculture.
And rice, you got to put rice somewhere.
Right. So you need, once we have agriculture, you see pottery use really start to expand or grow with a sedentary lifestyle.
Right.
If that makes sense.
I guess the people that were moving around, the nomadic people, were probably using animal skins and things to carry their water, and
or baskets or whatever it was. You couldn't You you just couldn't imagine trying to carry
a big pot. I'm not putting a pot on my back. We're going over the Andes.
Yeah, fill it up with water, and then imagine just how heavy that would be.
I'll risk it. We'll find some good water. Trust me.
And Linda Cordell in Archaeology of the Southwest says ceramic containers, because they're both heavy and fragile, like we said, they're not useful to mobile groups,
right?
Especially those lacking pack animals, rafts, or boats.
Right.
So, and then, in other words, like we mentioned, if you were a nomadic people, you would use baskets. You wouldn't use ceramics. But then with agriculture, we begin to see people use it more. And Colin Renfrew and Paul Bond say in the book Archaeology that the lack of pottery vessels before the Neolithic period, which is when agriculture came along, is mainly a consequence of the way people live there.
Okay. I buy that, right?
Yeah. And the other thing that's important about ceramics or pots is that it's more useful for cooking. So once you had agriculture come along,
right,
and you started having grains, and grains needed to be processed before we could eat them. It's a lot easier to cook like a corn or cook barley or something in a ceramic pot that you can put right directly on the fire than it is to try to cook it in a basket.
Yeah, because a basket has holes in it. I mean, I'm no ancient man.
Yeah. But you have to keep filling that thing up.
Yeah, what's going on? It just, the water keeps disappearing.
The other thing Linda Cordell says is that with a pottery vessel, you could set it on the fire and leave it. And that was important for people who had to do other things throughout the day.
Boy, that holds true today.
Like a slow cooker. You know what I mean? It was like a slow cooker.
Oh, do you have one of those, I forgot what they're called, but they're the
Instant Pot?
Yes. Yeah. The pressure cooker, right? Do you have one?
I do have one. Someone gave us their hand-me-down.
It's great.
Yeah.
I love it. Is the only thing it's good. The only thing is it just makes it faster, right? That's the only purpose, the only pro.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to usually you don't have to soak your corn, or you don't have to soak the beans or anything. You can just throw them in there and do them.
Wow.
Relatively quickly.
Wow. I made some split pea soup for the new year in one of those. That was just amazing. Amazing.
Our friends gave it to me with, they had lost the instructions. So I kind of had to figure it out myself. And the first time I cooked something on it, I nearly burned my face off when I released
the steam thing. Yes. YouTube.
Yeah. I realized it afterwards.
Yeah. You're a man of a certain age. The kids are all laughing at us right now. They're like idiots. You have computers in your pockets.
So in other words, also what was good about pottery is that by being able to cook things better, like that, like grains, pottery may have also unlocked more calories for our prehistoric ancestors.
So and then we start putting a little weight on. Yes. Right. Now we're talking about evolution.
Right. So and our brains would get bigger. And
now you're talking business.
Yeah.
Now you're cooking with gas.
We increased our survivability, I guess.
Yeah. Hell yeah, we did. Put some meat on our bones. Sitting around eating out of ceramics.
Yeah, with a spoon. Now we have a spoon.
Life was good. It's like, God damn, I'm so exhausted. Let me sit down and eat some corn out of this thing.
So why is pottery useful for archaeologists? Prudence Rice says that pottery is useful because, one, pottery has a long history and is found all over the world.
Okay.
Two, pottery is virtually indestructible. Even if it breaks, we still have those pottery sherds out there.
Yeah.
Unlike stone projectile points, which are attractive to collectors, sherds are not particularly attractive to pot hunters. So
that's a good thing? Why is that a good thing? Because so people just leave them.
They leave it there. So
that's funny.
Unlike trying, finding an old spear point or finding a gold ring or something.
Right.
Most people will just leave pottery.
Yeah. I mean, you picked up pottery shards where I was like, I would have never thought that was anything other than some weird rock. I never would have noticed it. Never. That's what I
find so. It's so interesting to me.
Yeah, and you're good at it. It's like walking around with somebody who can get the 4-leaf clover. You can really see them.
The other thing she says, pottery is again not exotic or highly valued like gold or jade. So people leave it.
Makes sense.
And then also the shape, decoration, composition, and manufacturing methods of pottery reveals insights into human behavior.
Yeah.
Right says.
There we go.
And in the foreword to Carla Sinopoli's book, Charles Redmond, who's an archaeologist, says that more than any other category of evidence, ceramics offers archaeologists their most abundant and potentially enlightening source of information about the past.
Well, yeah, it's most enlightening just because there's so much of it.
Right. He's a sherd nerd,
but it's enlightening. Yeah, it's enlightening, but it's enlightening by the ton. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But the other thing is, and Colin Renfrew and Paul Bond state this, is that you can arrange pottery in a succession. So you can look at styles and kind of get a relative chronology of like what's an old pot, what's a newer pot.
Right.
And then you can use those pottery sherds when you go in and you start digging through a site and you find pottery, a certain type of pottery at a certain level. You can kind of think of like approximately, relatively what this age was.
Right.
When this was laid down.
You can just sort of shotgun it. You can just be like on the fly. You don't have to take it in to be carbon tested or light tested.
Right. You just know that,
look, this is the zigzag. Yeah. I know this.
And then also Renfrew and Bond, if you want to get more sophisticated, you could look at the residues that remain in the pots.
Oh.
And look under microscope or chemical analysis to figure out what was in the vessels. So you can also figure out something about what the people's diet was at the time.
Rice, wheat, corn.
Yeah, guess what? It was corn. It was corn again. We've confirmed it. I had a hunch it was corn. And sure enough, it's been confirmed. By analysis that I had to wait like 6 months to get back. And just before we begin making our pots, John, I want to say something about pot hunting and looting. And eventually I want to do an entire episode on looting.
Yes, I love that. Let's do that.
But a couple points. In a 1991 article, The Looting of Arkansas, Spencer Harrington notes that pots are the relics of choice among collectors.
Did you say looting of Arkansas?
Of Arkansas. So
what?
Believe it or not, there's the Mississippian culture that was in Arkansas along the Mississippi River from about 900 AD until about when the Europeans came. But there's a big there was a whole pottery culture there. And actually some of the oldest pottery we have in North America is in southeastern Arkansas. United States.
Wow.
But there's also pots that were being produced along the Mississippi with the Mississippi culture.
There's a lot of mud.
right, exactly. And he quotes a county archaeologist in Arkansas at that time who said, people want pots. They don't want hammerstones. They want pots. And then fine lithics, meaning like projectile points. So there's a market, as with any criminal activity, there's a market for pot hunters or looters to go out and take pots out of these.
Yeah, you put a fern in it, you fill it with glass marbles,
right?
Put your change in there.
And Harrington says that the rural poverty, the poverty in Arkansas at that time, had contributed to the looting problem.
Yeah.
So, and he says, and in the 2009 article, Drugs, Gun, and Dirt, Samir Patel talks about how the drug trade has overlapped with the illegal artifact trade.
Interesting.
So here in the Southwest, he says, antiquities are what a stolen car stereo might be in New York. An untraceable commodity of the criminal underground. And
it turns out when you're addicted to a drug or you're hungry, you're going to sell the pot. You're going to trade the pot that's sitting on your mantle.
Right. Or if you live in an area where you know that there's old pots out there in the ground and you're broke and you need some meth, need some drugs. Then you go out and you do these illegal digs and you
Hell yeah.
And and the thing is, what Patel notes in his article is he says that the local federal agents and cops in the Southwest even have a term for those who combine tweaking, which is taking meth, with digging for pots.
Holy shit. And I can't think of a better thing for a tweaker to do than to look around in the dirt for little tiny pieces of something.
I know. That's what he said. But they call them twiggers. They call them twiggers. You're a tweaker and a digger.
You're a twigger. Wow.
But like you're saying, because if you're on meth, what do? You obsess. You obsess about everything.
Yes, and you pick at things, and it's perfect. It's the perfect marriage.
So he says that the tweakers actually make really good, field archaeologists going out and looking for stuff.
I believe it. I believe it.
But we'll go into it a little more in a separate episode on looting itself.
Oh, that's great.
But apparently he's saying in 2009, they were busting a lot of drug dealers up in the Four Corners area of New Mexico. And they'd find drugs, they'd find meth, and and then they'd find ancient pottery. Ancient pottery.
Funny. Isn't that weird? But it's an untraceable commodity. I get it.
Yeah.
It's like blockchain.
And it's really hard because it's illegal. I mean, you can take them, a pot from private land belongs to the person who owns the land.
Right.
But it's illegal to take it from federal land. But the thing is, it's really hard to trace where that pot actually came from. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, anyway. Wow. All right, John. So now is the time. We have a little bit of history on pottery. Now's the time to take out our clay.
I've already been doing it. I've been playing with it, and I made look what I made, a pancake.
Save that. That's like a plate.
I'm sorry. It was just open. I kept picking at it and playing with it. And I made
that's great.
I made a pancake.
Hold that up again. Let's see.
Look at that.
Look at you.
Look at that.
That's Save that.
All right. I'll dry it and save it for some archaeologist to find it. In a millennia.
I don't know. I wouldn't fight. This is modeling clay, which is oil based. So I don't know what would happen if we stuck this in the fire. It might go up like a.
Yeah.
All right. So the first.
We're not going to fire this stuff.
So the first thing, John, we're going to make a pinch pot. So just if you can get a ball of clay.
All right.
Like that. I've made a ball.
See, you did yours in advance too. You know. You made that ball before we recorded.
I had to test to see if it was soft.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
All right. So just make a little ball there.
Okay.
And this is going to be one of the simplest pots that people made back, I don't know, thousands of years ago.
Okay.
Right, do you have your ball?
I sure do. It feels good.
Yeah.
God, I love squeezing this stuff. Doesn't it? It's just so relaxing.
I love... I don't know. I've taken a few pottery classes. Mary's really into pottery.
Really? I didn't know
makes
that.
Pottery, yeah. But there is something very, meditative or very soothing about doing pottery. Yeah. So now that you have your ball, you have your ball.
Mm-hmm. I sure do. Look. Well,
you're going to work your thumbs into it.
Okay. It's like peeling an orange. You're going into the navel of the orange.
Right. Exactly.
I'm painting a word picture for our audio only people.
There you go. Yeah. So describe what we're doing is we are working our fingers into the ball of clay.
It's like what everybody did in kindergarten. This is like that bowl.
And we are pinching it out. So with our fingers, we are going to pinch up the sides of the bowl.
This is going to be for putting our weed in it. We're going to put our weed in this, right?
Yeah, I was going to say. This is what this is making your bowl and then you'll put a stem on it. This is like what most high school art students do.
It's so great. It's so cool.
Yeah. All right. So you start making your pot.
Oh, you're going for depth. I'm going a little bit more for width.
Look at that. Well, there's no right or wrong in here. Everybody does their own.
Well, yeah. Sure, we know.
But then you just work up the sides so you can see. All right. How's it look?
Oh, look, I think it looks pretty good. Yours looks great.
Good. John has a nice one as well.
You're more artistic. You're more artistic.
And then if you wanted to, you could have taken, one of the tools, or you take a piece of a stone or whatever, and then you could draw. You could make designs in the outside of the pot.
Oh, I like your designs. Let me see that.
Well,
it's good. Just little lines
for demonstrating. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could take off the plastic on that.
I gotcha. Wow. Dang.
Okay. But prehistorically, we'd be using a piece of shell, or who knows what we'd be using.
Maybe a tooth from an animal.
Don't need it. All right. How's it look, John?
Oh, good. I'm doing triangles.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
John has made a little pinch pot with some triangles.
With some triangles. And yours has lines, like almost like they're seams or something.
Yeah.
I like
just
that.
Demonstration.
Have you seen that on a prehistoric pot? Is that influencing your design?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Usually they're much better. They can be very
detailed.
Don't
plagiarize from our ancestors.
Right.
Okay.
It's completely mine.
That's
just a
completely brand new. You're the first hominid ever.
All right, John. So let's move on to our next pot. Let me see it. How'd it go?
Good.
It looks very nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And if this were like not oil-based clay, we would then fire this and we'd put it in a fire.
Right. But we're not doing that. No, not especially not in LA. I start another fire. Jesus. They think that there's now reports that maybe it was arson.
Oh God. I hope not.
I know.
I hope not. So, all right. So we're going to make a coiled pot, John. So the first thing you want to make a base for it.
Oh, okay.
Like a little flat dip.
All right. I don't know how to make that. You made that in advance.
That one I just made.
I'm getting my ass kicked here.
All right, so just make a little disc.
Yeah, it's like a little. It's almost the size of a Mexican silver dollar.
Right.
And
this will be the base of our coil pot. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now set that down.
Got it.
And take a little more clay. And then this time, and you may have to add some water to it.
Okay.
But we're going to make a coil. We're going to make a rope. So kind of rub it between your hands or rub it on the desk.
You're good at this.
So
you've done this before. Haven't you?
Don't try to kiss up to that. I'm terrible at it. You're not getting a grade on this.
I'm surprised. I'm amazed by your...
Listen, there's always a student like that. I know those students who always try to kiss
professor.
Up. Yeah. Oh my God.
Good.
You're so good at it.
Yeah, you're so good.
So are you getting it? You can even roll it on your desk, maybe just to give it.
No, I'm not because they did not have desks. I'm going old school.
So you want to get it like a rope.
I'm doing it right between my ass cheeks, like they did.
Look at that. For those of you who are watching us on YouTube, they may. All right. So you got it. Look at that. There you go.
That's something. Oh, look at yours. Nice. Okay.
All right. So now this, you're going to begin to coil around that base you made.
Oh, I see. I see what you're doing.
See how that is? You begin to coil it around the base.
Boy, who thought this one up, you know?
I know.
Okay. Good.
And then as you go around, there you go. Yeah. So now we'll make another coil.
Mm-hmm.
The same way, we'll make another rope.
This is a good one for your contact lenses after you fire it, you know?
No. I find out next week, like, John's in the hospital. He's got pink eye. I don't know where he got it.
You know, I got pink eye last year. Do you remember that?
I know. No.
How the hell did I get pink eye? I don't know. Don't you get it from poo? It's from
maybe.
Poo, right?
You wash your hands?
Yes, yes. Since the pandemic, I've gotten really good at it.
All right.
So
make another one. Make another rope.
Okay.
All right.
Same width, right? Just longer.
Yeah.
Just a little.
So in other words, you make the coils and you just keep coiling it up.
Wow.
Along, you add it to the other coil, going around your pot.
This is lovely. All right, I'm going in.
Okay.
My pot gets wider, right?
Right.
Okay, got it.
So you could do this. This looks awful, but you could do this numerous times. And you see how you would build up the sides of your pot by doing that. Look at that. Look at yours. Looks very nice.
I don't know. Really?
But this is how you could do this numerous times with like really thin. Usually like the pots will have really thin ropes that will coil up and build up the sides.
I feel like I would not be a pot maker in my tribe. I feel like they would assign me to something else.
John, they'd be like the ones telling you to go like collect wood for the fire.
Just get more wood. Really? We got a ton. Get more. All right.
So that would be, and then the thing is you could use a scraper to like even out the sides of that. So you couldn't tell that it was from the outside.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. All right.
That's harder. You get the scraper involved. Jesus. Okay.
All right, John. So the last thing we're going to make. So that's a coil pot. So we made a pinch pot and a coil pot.
Pinch and
coil.
And
now the last thing we're going to make is a figurine. We're going to make an effigy of each other.
Oh my God. Okay.
I have a feeling this is going to look like Bert and Ernie.
Ernie and Ernie.
Yeah.
I mean, we're.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus. I knocked my microphone over. Sorry.
Okay. Are you okay?
Yeah, everything's fine.
So I'm creating, again, these would be like the effigies that they found in the area of Europe 26,000 years ago of a face or a figure. So here it is. I'm making your head. Try not to move, John.
Can't you just take a screenshot? I mean, I got work to do over here.
All right. Got your head. Put your hair.
Whoa, Jesus. Right. I've got a real situation over here.
All right.
Okay. Oh.
You
see, luckily I've grown up with you, so I know you. I don't have to look, you know.
All right.
I know who you are. This isn't just so much your outer image, but I'm also doing your inner image.
Really? I'm doing you right now. I'm doing you right now.
I'm doing you as like the you know, the timeless you.
Oh, okay. I appreciate that.
The you that you've always been, that you've always searched for. The you that you found when you walked through the wound to the other side.
Okay.
How's
it going?
Good. Okay. I'm in really good shape. This is fun.
This really is fun.
I need to do things like this. I don't do anything like this. You know, that's just pointless.
What?
Well, I mean, but you know what I'm saying? Like a hobby isn't like going to the gym.
Right.
Or reading. A hobby is something that you do that's for no reason other than, right?
Yeah, I always thought it's good to do this, no matter what your art is, to do some other art.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Even if you're no good at it.
Right.
Just to do it, because it makes you think about other things.
Every artist says that, and I never do it.
Okay.
All right. I'm ready.
Right. Are we ready for the reveal?
Uh-huh.
All right. So John and I have both made effigies of ourselves. These would probably be found about 26,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They would have been fired in the hearth, in like the actual fire. So let's go ahead and let's do our reveal.
Okay. Here. Oh my God, yours is great. Wait, raise it up a little higher. Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Look at you. That's the inner me.
Okay, for you, those of you listening, so Professor McCray has done my head. It's a big nose, and I've got headphones on.
Yeah.
And my hair is swooping up like it tends to do. It's really good. And then for him, I basically just made a voodoo doll.
Yeah. Don't be sticking anything in there. That's hilarious.
Wow.
All right. We're making effigies. Jennifer just came in.
Oh, that's hilarious.
He made me. That's me. Hold it up again.
There it is.
That's me.
Wow, that's really good.
Isn't it? And I made him. This is him.
Wow, you guys look different from one another.
I could tear my head off, your head off, and put my head on this body.
Yeah. We'll save it because we will take photos of these and post them on
we will.
There we go.
This is great. I'm putting this up here in my office. Oops, it doesn't stand very well. I forgot I haven't fired it yet.
Yeah.
That's great. Wow. Well, this is just as I predicted. This is a potty award that we're going to... Now, one thing I just wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
You sent me all these really cool tools.
Right.
And one of the tools was a garrote. Look,
okay.
It's got two little things, and it's got a wire, and it's straight out of The Godfather. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. It looks frightening, but actually that's what you use when you have a block of clay, raw clay, and you need to cut off part of that clay, a slab of clay.
It's also what you use to kill Luca Brasi.
Yeah, that is
Brasi, right. Is that right? Luca?
Yeah, Luca Brasi. He sleeps with the fishes.
Oh. Yeah, they put that fish in his bulletproof vest.
You know, I always when they sent Luca, remember the whole story is like he's so devoted to the Don.
Yeah.
And then it's like we sent Luca over to the Turk to try to tell the Turk that he's unhappy working for them. And everybody knew.
Everybody knew. It was stupid. It's a stupid idea.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Send somebody else.
Would buy that. Nobody would buy
Luca.
All right, John. So, anyway, I may not have made a sherd nerd out of you or any of our listeners, but I hope you have a better understanding of pottery and why pottery is important in archaeology, but why also we don't need to save every single pottery sherd that we find.
Leave it where it is. In general, in life, don't touch it. Just walk away. That goes for everything. When in doubt, leave it there.
Or you'll end up with pink eye. You'll pick it up and then you'll put it back and you'll be scratching your eyes.
I may be nothing more than a shard bard, but I have really grown from this and learned a lot. Thank you so much, Professor.
You're welcome. And I hope, if anything, you have a better it's a connection to our past.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think we should all Pottery.
Well, if anything, also next time your mom or your significant others are taking a pottery class and they're giving you an ashtray or something, just realize how much the history of it, 10,000 years of history going in to make that pottery. You know
that their pottery is going to last for fucking ever.
Right. That ashtray, it always ends up being an ashtray. You can put paper clips in it.
All right, well, John. This is human number 2 signing off.
And this is human number 1. Thank you for listening, everybody. If you found this podcast interesting, please recommend it to a friend. Actually, Facebook has stopped recommending us because of my the post I did about the blue rock candy you can get at the Breaking Bad store in Albuquerque.
You got us banned. But no, it's not official. We might get recommended again.
Right.
They might pull us off the.
For those of you who don't know, at the Breaking Bad store here in Albuquerque, they sell rock candy that's sky blue, just like the meth that Walter White sold in Breaking Bad.
Yeah, and human number 1 posted a picture of it, and the Facebook machine decided, God, Russians can change our election, but we post one baggie of rock candy, and we're banned.
I know. They said I was like promoting drug use. It's like it's from the Breaking Bad store. All right, but don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Also check out Watson & Company Socks, Puppies Not Piranhas on Etsy, and the Two Humans Cave Shop on Cafe Press.
Yes.
Again, for the people affected by the fires in LA, we're thinking of you and hope you're safe.
Yeah.
And thanks, everybody.
You're all
getting ashtrays for Christmas. Love you guys. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.